Hello everybody and welcome to Arc Replay of the Week. I'm your host SMence, and today we have battle between two of our most accomplished Arc battlers, Regi and Venge. As you can see, the types between the two are Venge with Dark, Poison, and Psychic, and the types for Regi are Ground, Fighting, and Steel. We see Venge pretty heavy on the Psychic with a Gardevoir, a Cress, and a Necrozma. And then we see Regi with a pretty even mix, 2 Steels, 2 Grounds, and 2 Fightings. So, pretty balanced teams here. Looking right off the bat, no one really stands out as being particularly strong to me. He doesn't really, Venge doesn't really have a switch in for the Pangoro, but, I mean, Pangoro is a pretty hard thing to switch into to begin with, but obviously, between the 3 Psychic types that have, he can revenge it easy, that's no problem, but if he comes in on something like, a Necrozma or a Cress that it outspeeds, he's definitely going to be able to kill it with, kill something with a knockoff, or a Drain Punch, whatever the fighting technique he happens to be is. So, definitely going to be a good matchup here. Obviously, I've already watched the replay, I already know what happened, but I won't spoil anything for you guys. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it, and let me know if the audio or anything is off in this video, because I did have to re-download OBS, so some things might be off, but hopefully everything sounds alright. Hopefully you can hear me. There's some background music, but that's not obviously as important as what I'm saying. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to play on slow speeds just because it's kind of hard to cover it while it's going that fast. So we get a lead of Nidoqueen versus Flygon here. It's probably a Scarf Flygon, but Regi smartly switches out because he couldn't very well have Ice Beam, which he does reveal to have. As he goes out, as Regi goes right out into his Escavalier to take this, to take that Ice Beam. So Venge is actually going to go for a Fire Blast here, which misses unfortunately because almost definitely would have killed the Escavalier. I don't know, maybe he's Assault Vest with Investment, but Fire Blast double super effective, obviously, from a presumably Life Orb, Sheer Force. Nidoqueen probably would have killed, so as Regi just goes right for an Iron Head here and does about 50%. Regi does go ahead and protect here, revealing that he is not Assault Vest, so it definitely would have killed, and Venge goes for the Ice Beam, which would have given Regi obviously a good chance to revenge it with Iron Head there, and just kill it right there with taking almost nothing from the Ice Beam, just the 11%. But he did protect, safe play, assuming that he would have gone for the Fire Blast there. And then Regi, probably predicting him to again predict that he was going to switch out, does stay in and goes for the Iron Head and knocks it out, as Venge is able to get up those Stealth Rocks. So honestly, not a big deal for Venge. The only thing that actually takes neutral on Regi's whole team is the Escavalier, which is out right now. Besides that, the Flygon, the Zygarde, the Registeel, and then the Virizion and the Pangoro all take resisted due to the Fighting Steel and Ground type. So obviously chip damage is always good. Something could be Focus Sash, you never know. But much better for getting the Fire Blast off to just kill this Escavalier right here, as Venge decides to go out into his Drapion here to take on this Escavalier. He does go for the knockoff, which does pretty good damage to this. Unfortunately, Regi misses his Mega Horn, which is unfortunate, but I mean, might have killed depending on the investment, probably adamant max attack, so might have killed, but I'd have to run a calc, but I mean, this thing's pretty bulky, but anyways, of course, Venge did miss the Fire Blast, so things are pretty even now. He's going to protect, obviously, just to scout, sees that he goes for a knockoff again, and then decides to just sack his Escavalier to knock off. Pretty safe play there, as he decides to go out into his Zygarde. Obviously, the 1,000 arrows, presumably banded, as it usually is very threatening here. So Venge decides to go out into his physical wall, the Cresselia, which obviously takes pretty minimal damage from that. Does look to be banded damage from that, as Zygarde really isn't the strongest Pokemon. It's just obviously 1,000 arrows is a great move, so he's gonna take that, tank that, get smacked down, no big deal, because I mean it's not weak to the ground anyways. So Regi decides to go right out into his Registeel here. There's not really much a Cresselia can do. It can Thunder Wave it, but that's just about it. He obviously could start Calm Minding up, but Registeel generally carries some sort of status, whether it's Thunder Wave or Toxic for it. So Venge actually doubles out into his Mandibuzz. Very good play here, because as you can see next, he is able to get a taunt off on it, which prevents it from doing the Thunder Wave like it wanted. Very good counter to the Registeel, because it can taunt it, which prevents it from statusing. All it can do is Seismic Toss, which is Rocky Helmet with Roost, so able to just basically stall out any Seismic Tosses that Regi wants to go for here. So obviously Regi not being able to really do anything. Could have easily switched out there on that taunt to get initiative, but decided to try to go for the Toxic. Maybe he was predicting Venge to expect him to switch out, so he didn't try to Toxic it so that he could wear down the Mandibuzz. Because now looking at the teams, especially with the Escavalier gone now, doesn't look like Regi has a lot for this Mandibuzz here. Obviously the Pangoro could have Stone Edge, Zygarde could have Stone Edge, or the Flygon could have Stone Edge very well, but even on a not-stab Stone Edge, unless the Pangoro is banded maybe, is not going to be doing a ton of damage. So we're going to see I think the Registeel switch out here after the taunt into the Flygon, as the Mandibuzz decides to go for a Roost there, just trying to stay healthy, as the Flygon just U-turns away. I think maybe he was expecting a switch from Venge there, and he just goes right back out into the Registeel again as it goes for the Brave Bird. I think he's going to try to Toxic now on the taunt from the Mandibuzz again, or maybe, no, this time he goes on the taunt, goes hard out into his Pangoro, that's right, on the taunt. So obviously he doesn't have to worry about the taunt. I'm assuming this is some sort of offensive Pangoro, as Pangoro's right for the Hammer Arm, which just Oko's the Drapion. Pretty powerful move there, obviously 100 base power stab. I think it might be Iron Fist boosted, not 100% sure about that though. So that just drops it. We see that it is in fact Life Orb, and the speed gets lowered obviously from Hammer Arm, so he can safely go out into his, well, as you can see now from this move, safely go out into his Cresselia, because he did have the Moonblast, which of course is double super effective against the Pangoro, and the Pangoro would have been outsped by the Cresselia because of the -1 speed from Hammer Arm. So of course if it didn't have that, it could have Thunder Wave Toxic or something, but it probably would have died to a knockoff. So smart play bringing the Moonblast there on Cresselia, especially considering he didn't really have to, because Psychic does hit fighting and it's stab. So maybe it's just a Smogon set. I'm not really sure why exactly he brought the Moonblast, but obviously it ends up working out. Maybe he brought it specifically for Pangoro, I don't know, but obviously it ends up working out for him, as Regi makes that prediction, I guess, and decides to go right out into his Registeel, which kind of counters this. As Venge goes out into his Necrozma. Now we don't know what the Necrozma is yet, but it does get toxic by the Registeel. We can assume that the Registeel walls it, but we do see Swords Dance from the Necrozma, which is pretty interesting. Regi's going to go right for the Stealth Rocks, which is important against Venge because he doesn't have anything that resists it now that the Nidoqueen is gone, and Mandibuzz, of course, which is going to be a problem for him, is weakened 25% by the Stealth Rocks. So we're going to see the Toxic rack up some damage. We're going to see Regi switch out into his Flygon here. Very good play predicting the Earthquake from Venge. And being immune to that, obviously, because of Levitate. And he decides he wants to save his Scarf. Flygon here U-turns out, gets a super effective 28%, of course reduced by the Prism Armor on the Necrozma, as the Necrozma is going to reveal Morning Sun here. So it's Earthquake, Morning Sun, Swords Dance, and then presumably a Stab Psychic move. As Regi is going to scout for that with his Virizion, but Venge decides to go straight for the double into his Gardevoir here. Going to take 65% from that Leaf Blade from Gardevoir. The Gardevoir reveals to be Scarf as a Healing Wishes, and he decides to go right back out into his Necrozma and get rid of the Toxic and get rid of the weakening, or the chip that was done on it, on pretty low health, obviously. He feels safe against the Virizion, obviously, Virizion being Psychic type. The Venge is obviously assuming that he can Swords Dance up against this Virizion, scared out, maybe out into the well, he could have gone out into his Pangoro, actually, assuming that it obviously had Psychic Stab. I don't think a +2 Earthquake probably would have killed from Necrozma. It's not naturally super powerful. So, but anyways, Regi decides to read that and go right for a Swords Dance of his own, which is an interesting play since it is faster, so the Leaf Blade does 58%. But of course, the Necrozma does reveal the Photon Geyser, which is physical in this situation because it has higher physical attack, and Regi decides he can just go right out into his faster Zygarde and drop a banned 1,000 arrows against it. Venge does decide to go out and do his Cresselia, which I think is a little bit interesting because the Necrozma was essentially, useless at that point anyways, not any more useful than his Cress was, especially since the Cress could had a little bit more longevity to it. But he decides to sack it. Maybe he thought he could live too, but he does not. 30-30 knocks the Cresselia out. Of course, Venge decides to go out into his Mandibuzz here, and Regi is just going to stay in and spam some 1,000 arrows, and Venge is just going to sit here and recover off. I'm going to skip it. Oh, my bad. Never mind, he does not. I thought that he spammed 1,000 arrows there. This is where he spams. He goes right out into his Registeel, knowing that the Mandibuzz can't really do anything to his Registeel, but the Registeel obviously can't really do much back to it. So there's going to be some spamming of some Brave Bird, Taunt, blah blah blah, whatever. A couple of turns of keeping the Mandibuzz, trying to keep it as healthy as possible, while Regi just lets his Registeel go down here. To the Mandibuzz. The Mandibuzz obviously roosts again. Seismic Toss this time is going to knock out the Registeel. He was just basically trying to get the Mandibuzz down to 75% roughly with the Seismic Toss, just so that he could have it weakened a little bit, as his Pangoro is going to come out and drop a Hammer Arm here, which obviously this coming in on rocks, being on 18%, the Hammer Arm is definitely going to kill the Necrozma here. He's going to take the Life Orb damage, and back out comes this thing. I'm going to come back to this play here, where he switches out into this, it dies, and then in comes the Mandibuzz at, let's see, this is at 69%, nice. and then the Mandibuzz is at 52%. So I'm going to come back to this play here. He decides to switch out into his Flygon, and the Flygon goes for a Brave Bird, doing pretty solid 39%, dropping it down to 43%. And the Outrage only does 31, obviously not being able to knock out the Mandibuzz, and he does it again, takes the Rocky Helmet and dies to that, which leaves Mandibuzz able to roost back up to 77. So it's looking like not a great situation for Regi here, as he goes for a Hammer Arm, which only does 60% to this Mandibuzz. The Mandibuzz obviously just gonna roost it off this time, as Regi decides, Hammer Arm's the only thing he really has to hit this at this point, so I am gonna just roost that off, or I am gonna save the Pangoro, so that I can, get that extra damage. Or Regi's gonna sit here and he's gonna spam 1,000 arrows a couple of times, and Venge is gonna roost that off until finally he gets a chance to Brave Bird. Now that he's at 99, he's gonna take the 1,000 arrows. It's gonna do 35, which is a pretty much average roll against it, and then take the Brave Bird, which is gonna do 6%. So this is the play where I don't know exactly the numbers, but this is a roll on Hammer Arm. Let me see what the other one did. 60%, I believe, to the Mandibuzz. Yeah, 60%. So based on the last roll, Mandibuzz should be dead here. He Hammer Arms, connects, and drops it down 57 to let it live on 1%. And the Mandibuzz is going to Brave Bird and knock it out there. So in the end, very good game, 50-turn battle, hard fought. Both teams played very, very well. Regi just didn't exactly have a great answer for the Mandibuzz. In the end, did come down to a roll, but that's Pokemon. What can you do? There's rolls every game, no matter what you do. So, I think that battle should have been Regi's. Regi played better, and I think Regi did prep better. I'm going to go back to a couple of points here where Regi to begin with, Regi should have saved either the Virizion or the Escavalier for this, because he could have easily Iron Head spammed, or even Mega Horn, obviously lower accuracy, and Iron Head can flinch, but the Mandibuzz, obviously Rocky Helmet racks up, but he was leftovers, and I think had he gotten a little bit lucky with Iron Heads, he could have taken care of it, or a close combat, I'm assuming, or maybe even Stone Edge. There had to have been a Z move on this, right? So maybe Z Continental Crush on the Virizion. I don't know, maybe he didn't even have Stone Edge, but I think he should have saved one of those, maybe tried to close combat it, and then the Brave Bird damage would have brought the Mandibuzz down low. He could have gone out into his Zygarde, but besides all that speculation, there's one turn here where right here. So the Mandibuzz is at 52%. The Mandibuzz is faster than the Pangoro, and Venge basically has two options here. Either he roosts, predicting the switch into something else, which is fine, or he really Regi lost this turn, because Venge has two options: Roost, Brave Bird. Only two things he can click. From Regi's point of view, from Venge's point of view, he can predict a switch, he can predict it to stay in, whatever. It doesn't really matter, because Regi knows he's slower. Even if Regi was faster for some reason, Hammer Arm kills right now. So if Regi's faster, Hammer Arm kills. If Regi is slower, Hammer Arm kills if Mandibuzz roosts, because he loses his flying type, is then Primary Dark, and Hammer Arm becomes super effective and kills the Mandibuzz. Last case scenario, is the only other thing Venge can do is he can Brave Bird, which will knock it out, presumably. I mean, even if it doesn't knock it out, same situation. A hammer arm just kills anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But let's say it does knock it out. The recoil is going to do 70%. It's going to do probably 20. I mean, I could calc. I could definitely calc the damage, but it's going to do roughly 20 because Mandibuzz has a lot of HP compared to a Pangoro. So even though it's a quarter for Brave Bird, 70%, even let's say it does 15, that drops the Mandibuzz down to what is that? 40, 38, 37. My bad. So it drops it down to 37%. At that point, how much did we see? We saw this do 31, so that wouldn't kill. But we saw this. Oh, well, you know, well, I'm gonna stop. Just assuming. Let me go ahead and do this. Brave Bird, Mandibuzz. Showdown usage. As long as it has Brave Bird, that's all I care about. Against a Pangoro. Doesn't really matter what the size is. So Brave Bird would do minimum, okay, so to a 69%, it would do 18, roughly. No, it would do 18. 69% to a Pangoro is 18 in recoil. So, oh, right, and okay, so I knew I wasn't out of my mind. So, 18 to the 18 to the Mandibuzz in recoil, drops it down to, where is it? Drops it down to exactly 53, and then I would imagine he has Outrage on his banded Psydog, right? I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't. So, I mean, even 34. I mean, I would assume that that's probably a roll. What does it do the second time? Does it do less or more? 37. So even 1,000 arrows is a roll. I'm sure he has Outrage. So this turn, definitely the play was Hammer Arm. I mean, everybody. I mean, in hindsight, it's easy to say that, of course, but I think that could have really been the point where Regi won that game. But Venge does continue his winning streak. Somebody is going to have to stop him eventually. He's got to be on because he won out of 13 last cycle. He had already been on a couple game winning streak before, so he's got to be 21 game win streak now. Regi wanted to end that, of course was not able to, but Venge obviously can't go forever without winning. If somebody gets him in doubles, then that's really what we need. We need our doubles players back. Let's be honest here. Dozer, where are you at? Dan, why aren't you playing Venge? You know, why isn't Venge getting up against Psy in doubles? Although I think that's happened before, and I'm pretty sure Venge won, so I don't know, whatever. But I know for a fact that Dozer has beaten Venge before in doubles, so Dozer, we need you. Challenge Venge. Get this over with. Finish it. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. I know I am happy to be back doing this. I enjoy doing it a lot, so if you have any suggestions, music choices, battle replays, whatever you have, leave it in the, this is going to be, I think, like an official remark thing, so it would go there. Leave your suggestions there. But anyways, I have been SMence, and thank you for watching.